Hello and welcome back to Drive Driver Driven. I'm Humble and we're back in the garage again working on the MK. I've done a couple of things off camera. I haven't really decided yet if I'm keeping yet, but let me spin the camera out and I'll show you what I've done and kind of what I'm thinking here. So where we left off is pretty much most of the body pre-fit is done. I still have to widen out these holes, but otherwise it really hasn't changed much in the past week. Part of that is because I've been out having fun in the Zero, which I don't have much video of, or rather I have video, but I have zero audio for the huge road trip that we did. Needless to say, the new top works out great for that. I haven't really put anything into video for that, but that's for a Zero update. That'll come later. On the MK here, what I have been working on is down in the nose here, you can see there's this kind of dimple-dyed panel that I'm kind of experimenting with at the moment. And what it does is it catches the chassis down here and it just goes forward. It's dimple-dyed for some strength, but then it's got this sort of like hump or this crease to get over the lip of the nose itself. And then on the edge on each side is where I would have Zeus fasteners to pick it up and to kind of reinforce the nose to keep it from flapping around at speed and give it kind of a positive mount. I kind of went with this just because I wasn't sure if I was going to be happy with this design. It's easy enough to work with, and this is kind of a proof of concept. This might actually work, question mark. I think there's enough strength in this that it could do well enough, but I'd be worried about it just fatigue fracturing over time because it is a really thin sheet, and it would keep the nose somewhat still, but I just don't think it would offer enough strength in like this orientation over time. So really what I need to do is step up for a size in thickness and go with like a heavier gauge sheet aluminum, which I do have some, but if this works out okay, it's easy enough to replicate this same kind of design or a similar design in a thicker gauge is all. My thinking with the dimple dies was to try and make this as light as possible, but offer as much strength as possible. You know, again, keeping with the idea of the car here, just lightness, etc. And I think it succeeded. The panel itself is, this is actually the first time I've had a chance to really use my dimple die set. And I was honestly surprised at how much rigidity it adds to the panel when you do this. So I think with the thicker panel, it will be a keeper. Also talking about mounting on the nose, I did get a set of Zeus fasteners. I'll be sizing those up again to pick up these sort of mount points that are in the side here. And it'll help, the nose itself will be held on with a Zeus fastener on each side and then two up under the chin. I think that'll be enough to hold the nose on securely, but you'll also be able to pull the nose off and do like quick suspension adjustments and that sort of thing because there's no wiring, there's no accessories or any electrics actually attached to the nose cone. So pulling it off and on quickly to do adjustments will be pretty easy. Elsewise on the car, I pulled the diffuser out because that's sort of the last thing that we need to fit up under the car. This slides up underneath here, and similar to the Zero, there is a lip that it slides into sort of on this bar here. And then I think there's a couple of like Z-brackets that attach to the body down here somewhere, or maybe on the back panel that support the sides on the diffuser here. So Okay, so the diffuser kit comes with this long thin strip, which is bent in sort of a Z, and I didn't really show it because it's not super worth mentioning, but there's 5 rivets that hold it in place on this bar here, and basically just center it up, put 1 in the middle, 2 on each side, and just get it centered. And the forward edge of the diffuser down there is just going to sit on top of the ledge that makes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the splitter, set it on that ledge, which you can kind of get a better view of here, and then that'll give us an idea of where the back of the diffuser lands. Okay, so you see how that kind of makes a flat floor on the back of the car there, using a floor jack just simply to hold the diffuser up. And then down in here you can see how the front lip of that diffuser just sits on top of that sort of little Z-bend. And what you're looking for is, it's not a perfect match, but there's this little corner here, and then one on the other side. And you want to make sure those are even, as well as, you know, as flat as this is going to be. And then ditto for this side. And these little Z brackets, these guys here, these are going to come down the edge of the side of the panel here, and the diffuser itself will fasten through these panels. And what we're going to have to do is clearance back behind this panel a little bit. There's a lip. You see right here, we have this lip here that's just preventing us from getting this panel into place. But once that's in place, you can see how everything's going to line up here. If I scoot the camera back, that's in a nutshell what it's going to look like. Is you have the top part of this panel is fastened back here, and this whole area is going to be behind the fender, so not really seen. And then down here, it's going to be all behind the wheel, and of course this whole thing has to sort of slide in a little bit, and that's more or less where it's going to sit. So we'll have to do a little trimming here, drill a couple of holes through this panel, and what we'll do is we'll rivet the upper portion of this to the bodywork, and then the lower portion will just have some riv nuts through this sort of Z-plate, and then a couple of holes through diffuser. So again, it's quick and easy to undo, etc., where you can just fit the diffuser up, put a couple of bolts in it, and it's held into place pretty securely, and likewise undo those and have the whole thing out in just a couple minutes. As far as the front, on the Zero, what I had done is I have a couple of bolts that are somewhat easy to reach out here towards the edge of the panel, that you could just reach under the car and undo, which basically help it from skipping off the edge or keep it from rattling too much. And I might do that here as well, is just to kind of keep the noise down a little bit. It seems to help. And then one other problem area is up here in the middle, which neither GBS nor MK provide a bracket or any kind of like fastener here for the middle. But on the Zero, I've noticed that the diffuser starts to sag a little bit after some time. So we'll have to look at that and see if we can't find a remedy for it. There is a good area behind this panel. There's a bar that goes all the way across. So just running a simple strap and maybe another bracket and Zeus fastener, something like that. Just something simple to support the middle to keep it from drooping over time. So next, I'll go ahead and just sort of sand this fiberglass back, kind of a messy job. And we'll get that Z-plate in place, and then we'll come back and take a look at how everything fits up. got the car pushed out here. Rain stopped for a little bit. Figured it was good to get it outside for some of the dusty work. But this also makes it easier to do a quick comparison. So I've got our brackets installed here. So this is the little Z bracket I demonstrated earlier. I had to sand down this inside lip just a little bit, maybe a 1/4 inch, to get this bracket to line up. It's not really worth videoing, but with that done, I was able to get these Clecos installed and drilled in to hold the bracket, so then I could fit up the diffuser and align it for the bottom bracket here. Now the way I lined everything up, for the top side, there's not really anything to it. It's line it up so it sits on this panel without bending excessively one direction or another. Drill for your fasteners. So in this case, it'll be riveted to this panel. And then when you're lining up your diffuser, what I did was I tucked it in up underneath the front lip here. I tried to get it as even as possible, side to side. As you can see, it's not fastened in the front or anything, but when I have a little bit of play side to side here. On the back, I tried to copy the same kind of look the Zero has. So I left 3/4 of an inch exposed here in the back. You can see the corners don't really line up, and there is a bit of a gap, but that's just this corner profile doesn't match this one. But if you look on the Zero, it does. That's just a difference in body, just a little bit. Again, most of this is going to be hidden by the rear wheel. Again, as you can see on the Zero, the fender's going to come back down through here. And this is going to be bright yellow, and this is going to stay black. So most of this is going to be sort of hidden from view anyhow. The important part of this surface is underneath. On both sides, I have a 3/4 inch lip, about a finger's width. Coming around the side, I did the same thing over here. So I have our Z-plate Clecoed into place. I have a couple of spots drilled. And the bottom holes, these are going to get riv nuts on the panel, and then the holes enlarge in just a little bit for the fastener to go through. And I'll probably support it with like a fender washer or something, so we're not absolutely crushing the fiberglass. On the front lip, on the Zero, I put a couple of fasteners just to keep this from rattling and to hold it into place. I may look at a different option. Maybe some foam tape or something. I haven't decided yet on if I need to fasten this up here or not. I kind of like the idea of just being able to do some fasteners on the side and then whisk the whole thing out without having to reach underneath. So I might just do a foam strip up on the front of this to keep it from, rattling too much. And then if that works, great, I'll leave it. But if it doesn't, then I'll sink some fasteners in and call it done. That's the diffuser done for the moment. I'll sink in the riv nuts. We've seen that all before. Get the hardware in, and then sink some rivets for the Z brackets. But on the front, we're not quite done yet. So I mentioned before putting some Zeus fasteners in. And if you don't know what a Zeus fastener is, I've got them kind of laid out on the table here. There's a handful of parts to make up each one. You have a backing plate, a retaining spring that goes onto the back of the retaining plate, and it's held to the retaining plate with some rivets. And then on your panel, whatever you're fastening, you have the actual Zeus fastener, or they're also called 1/4 turn fasteners. It's called a 1/4 turn because, just like it says on the tin, you push it in, turn it 1/4, and then that locks the panel into place, and it's a quick release fastener. So in the event that you need to quickly get under there, it's a 1/4 turn fastener, and you can pull it out. As far as I'm aware, it's not called a 1/4 turn fastener because you can open these with a 1/4 also. That could be just a happy coincidence, but usually you'll see guys with a quarter turn fastener, like a screwdriver or something like that. Nothing doing. So when the whole assembly is together, imagine that we have a panel in the middle here. You'll notice there's a bunch of different holes on the surface of this. That's so you can orient the fastener in different ways. So on the 0, this will sit flat. And I want the fastener itself to be flat so everything lines up on a ground plane. But if the fastener was up or down or whatever, you can clock this in different ways so that all the fasteners line up accordingly. If we look at the back, I don't have the rivets in, but you can see how it works. The retaining spring is fastened to the bracket, and then through the fastener pokes through, and then it's got these kind of twisted teeth that engage with this spring, twist around and lock. And so it pushes in, turns, and then it sets back a little bit using this spring pressure so it can't rattle loose or come undone or anything like that. You actually need this tool to insert a little bit of force, twist, and unlock it. So if I twist this from underneath, you can sort of see how that fastener works. So I have a couple of these that we're going to put up under the nose, and then on the aluminum panel that we made earlier, I'm just going to cut this width of a hole so that we can attach a spring like this to the panel with some rivets, and then we can just twist this guy in and it'll attach to that aluminum panel, and the aluminum panel itself will act like this bracket here. So if I grab one of these brackets, let's take a look under the nose and see kind of how and where this will fit. So this is the area up under the nose where I want it to fit. Excuse my reach, but we're looking for something kind of like this. We need it to poke through the panel, and the Zeus fastener will fasten through here on the nose, and it'll be captured by this plate, and then you'll twist lock. So we'll have to slot the bodywork to get this to fit. There's already a bolt here that I have installed. That's what I'm not happy with, and even though there's a hole there, that's not something you're going to be able to see once everything's said and done. Let's call that additional lightning for now. And then, as mentioned before, if we look at our panel here, up in this area is where we're going to drill some additional holes, space them out, and those will act like our retaining panel here. And then using all of that, that'll hold the nose onto the chassis. Okay, quick little comparison about the diffusers between the two kits here. The mounting is a little bit different, the bodywork is a little bit different, and the overall fitment is a little bit different. So the mold for the diffuser definitely seems like it's more for the 0 in terms of how it lines up with the bodywork, the radius, everything is correct. And then on the aluminum bodywork for the 0, it actually goes down to collect this kind of side panel on the diffuser. And so much like this, how it has these retaining bolts to hold it in the side, well, the 0 has that as well, but it's actually in the rear tub, not a Z panel that you put underneath it. It looks like the same molded part to me. Of course, this one's in white and this one's in black, but you can see how the center section is sunken in. It's got the same radius here. So the fitment on the MK obviously isn't perfect, but its job here is the same nonetheless, and that's to help smooth out airflow out the back of the car and bring some cleaner airflow behind the car. I haven't tested it myself, but I have been told that the diffuser on the 7 is actually quite functional because the rest of the car is so terrible aerodynamically that helping any airflow from under the car help fill the void behind the back. So you have, like, again, you have the fenders here, you have this terrible windshield in the way. and then this just straight slope on the back of the car, while bringing extra airflow up into the bubble behind the car just helps significantly with an already terrible aero design. So I don't know what that equates to in like mileage or anything like that, and I haven't tested a before and after, but according to folks who race these, it does make a noticeable difference, especially when you're up above 100 miles an hour where these cars really start to struggle. I think it's worth putting the diffuser on maybe for a little bit of mileage on the street, but I also really like the look of the underside of the car because, to my eyes at least, it really helps complete the look of the back of the car. And as I mentioned before, so it will sag in the middle here. You can see how it'll bend. There is a license plate bracket that goes back here. And what I might do is try to figure out a way to incorporate that into a third mount or something back here that can support the middle of the diffuser. I'd really like if that works out, but we will see. All right, trying to figure out a problem here. And so this is what the plates look like when they're assembled. So you have a couple of rivets, they hold the spring in. And never mind this one backwards, normally it'd be in this orientation, but that's how they sit on the car. And then on this side you have your quarter turn fastener in the panel, and it sticks out the back there, and as you push it through and spin it, it'll lock into place. The issue I'm having is with this guy in, this little nubbin doesn't stick out enough. I thought these would be more than long enough to reach, but they are just shy. And even though this side has this little lip, even on this side, it doesn't stick through enough to capture this plate. Like it's almost there, but it'll put too much stress on the panel and the gel coat, which will cause it to crack and ruin the eventual paint job it's going to get. So I gotta find a Zeus fastener with a longer shank on it to take the place of these, and then probably for the ones that'll be down here too. Where they're going to sit on the chassis is, I have the plates here, tried a couple of different orientations, but the way these will sit is in this orientation here on the chassis, which will pick up those Zeus fasteners on the nose, and then the two more in the bottom on the plate. But yeah, so a little bit of an impasse here. Just need to get some longer fasteners installed. I sourced this whole kit actually from Summit Racing, and that's probably where I'll go back to for a longer set. I hate leaving it at that, but that's kind of where we're gonna have to stop, because once I get this sorted out, the body's got to go out for paint. Ditto for the diff, which will be coming up in the next video, is just tearing that down, cleaning it up, and getting the casing ready so it can go and get welded, actually by the same guy who's doing the paint. So all of that stuff has to be ready to go, and the sooner the better. I mean, it's already February, and I want to have this car out and drivable and registered by the time spring lands. So the clock is ticking. At any rate, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.